Hello there. In this video, I'm going to have an exam review session with a past paper. The paper is IB Economics Paper 1 HL from November 22 exam. Let's give it a go. Question 1A. Explain why the existence of positive externalities of consumption would lead to allocative inefficiency and thus welfare loss. The intro is going to include the definitions of positive externalities, consumption externalities, welfare loss, and allocative inefficiency. The first reason why allocative inefficiency occurs, which is due to lack of information. The existence of lack of information about a certain good's merit can leave the goods being underconsumed, so the society cannot enjoy external benefits that the good could have provided. So it's going to create welfare loss. And to demonstrate that, I can use an example of merit goods, such as flu vaccination, that is not widely consumed since the society or the general public doesn't really recognize the great benefits of it. So the society doesn't consume the enough amount of the flu vaccination. Therefore, it is causing welfare loss, like spread of flus during a certain period of time. So I can illustrate the situation with a positive externality of consumption diagram to demonstrate the underallocation of the goods. Next is due to financial barriers. So I can explain how the existence of financial barriers of consuming a certain good can leave the good being underconsumed. So society cannot enjoy external benefits that the good could have provided. So the society has welfare loss. And the proper example of such case would be college education. So due to the burden of tuition payment, the college education is not like widely consumed or easily accessible. Therefore, the society experiences related social cost. Question B. Using real-world examples, evaluate the policies a government might adopt to respond to a market situation in which significant asymmetric information exists. I should define asymmetric information, adverse selection, and moral hazard in the introduction. First, I can talk about some recommended policies and their effectiveness. First recommended policy is to set mandatory disclosure requirement. Like, government can mandate their sellers disclose relevant information about their products or services to buyers. This practice can include information about product quality, safety, potential risks, and terms of sale. And second policy is to impose consumer protection regulations, like implement consumer protection regulations to ensure that consumers are not misled or deceived by false or incomplete information. And last recommended policy is setting standardization and certification. So it can encourage the development of industry standards and certification processes so that it can guarantee product quality and safety. And the real world example I can use is the FDA drug approval process. The US Food and Drug Administration, which is FDA, regulates the pharmaceutical industry, and it requires drug manufacturers to undergo quite rigorous testing and clinical trials to demonstrate the safety of the products. That can be a real-world example. Next, I can analyze potential limitations or drawbacks that the recommended policies can have. What must be understood is that there will be huge administrative cost to regulate or enact such policies. Also, the problem of information overload should not be overlooked. And there can be compliance and enforcement challenges. Last, other unintended consequences can occur, such as reducing competition or stifling innovation, things like that. Question 2A, explain why a sustainable level of government debt is an important macroeconomic objective. My intro is going to include the definitions of government debt and the importance of sustainable government debt. In body 1, I can explain the importance of sustainable government debt from the perspective of short-term economic growth of the country. First is about how a sustainable level of government debt can allow fiscal stability, which is obvious. Next reason why it is important is because it allows budget flexibilities. To be more specific, by keeping debt levels sustainable, governments have more room to respond to economic downturns or unexpected emergencies through counter-cyclical fiscal measures. Also, sustainable level of government debt allows reduced vulnerability to external shocks, such as fluctuations in global financial markets, changes in interest rates, or economic crisis. In that case, healthy government can be more resilient to deal with the situation. I can draw on ADS diagram showing AD shifting to the right. Next is about the importance of sustainable government debt seen from the perspective of long-term economic development of the country. So first, sustainable level of government debt can support long-term growth and development, which is pretty obvious because government can conduct long-term investment on infrastructure or technology or all these kind of things. So that's why it is so important for the long-term development. Also, it allows maintaining sovereign independence, which is related to the external shocks that I mentioned above. Since the government doesn't need to borrow money from other countries or other international institutions, simply say. And then I can finish with drawing an ADS diagram showing LRAS curve shifting to the right. Question B. Using real-world examples, discuss the potential trade-off between unemployment and inflation. My intro will define trade-off, inflation, and unemployment as two macroeconomic objectives. My body one will discuss short-run trade-off between two objectives. So first, I can explain in the short run, there can be trade-offs between the two, such as when an economy is an inflationary gap, when one is growing, the other is decreasing. And also when there is a recessionary gap in an economy, then that's the same situation happens. And then I can focus on the fact that such trade-off occurs when the issue is largely aggregate demand oriented. So I can illustrate the situation with an ADS diagram and Phillips curves necessary, showing the short-run trade-off between unemployment and inflation. And the real-world example I'm going to use is about Japan. So for a few decades, the country has had deflation that has kept the price level quite low. On the other hand, the labor market demand has been pretty good, sound, I want to say. So there was excess demand of labor in the country. My body two will discuss the case where there is no trade-off. Theoretically, in the long run, there can be no trade-off between the two objectives. Also, when the economic issues are largely aggregate supply-oriented, there is no trade-off as well. Such as when an economy is in stagflation, inflation and unemployment go to the same direction. Or when an economy achieves full employment in the long run, price level, completely flexible, and only NRU exist. Again, I'm going to use an ADS diagram and Phillips curve, but this time I'm going to focus on aggregate supply curves shifting to the left or right, and LRPC to prove such cases. Question 3A, explain how a free trade area is different from a common market. My intro will define a free trade area and common market. And then I can first talk about characteristics of FTA. FTA is a trade pact between two or more countries aiming to reduce or eliminating tariffs, quotas, and other trade barriers. So FTA focuses primarily on liberalizing trade of goods and services. Also, there is member countries' autonomy guaranteed. That's the characteristics of FTA. Next is going to be about characteristics of common market. Common market goes beyond on FTA by not only eliminating tariffs and quotas on trade among member countries, also it allows free movement of goods and services, capital, labor within the market. Common market often adopts a common external tariff which is a uniform tariff applied to imports from non-member countries. B, using real-world examples, evaluate the decision of a country to remain a member of trading bloc. I'm going to start with defining types of trading bloc. And first, I can analyze the advantages of being a member of a trading bloc. It increases trade flows, which can lead to economic growth, and it brings greater consumer benefit by lowering prices or guarantees more diversification of the products available. And it leads deeper economic integration and can attract more foreign investment. So that's pretty obvious advantages. And to prove that, I'm going to use a real-world example of the UK. The country recently has joined the Trans-Pacific Trading Bloc, which is the biggest trade deal since Brexit. So under the agreement, more than 99% of current UK goods export to CPTPP countries to be eligible for zero tariffs. Next is about the disadvantages of being a member of a trading bloc. First, it can lead trade diversion. So it can increase the expense of trade with non-member countries. That's the thing. There can be displacement of domestic industries since it increases competition and those who are less competitive can be left behind. Also, there is a possibility of losing sovereignty. And last, the problem of economic disparities amongst member countries is still observable. So I can prove such disadvantages with a real-world example, which is about the EU member countries. There are 27 countries in the EU, but 8 of them are not in Eurozone, which kind of prove the fact that there must be some disadvantages of being a Eurozone member, you know? All right, this is the end of paper 1. Thanks for watching. Bye.